Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Ins and Outs with Lynne and Liam. Today we have another two amazing articles all about sex, kind of. And
There's definitely sex, Liam.
yeah, yours is like about sexual organs, and mine's about sexual toys and devices.
In theory, they can link together at one point too.
Yeah, so one of the devices I'm going to talk about actually kind of links to your story. So it turns out that not every year, because I guess it's really hard to put on, but every like 3 or 4 years, there is a like trade show for new sex toys. And there's a competition where you can, submit your like idea for a new sex toy. And if you get enough of like support from this conference, then they will fund a prototype of your sex toy so you can go out and try and sell it. And I think it's like a $5,000 to $10,000 prize. And the last person to win it, they invented, I'm not sure who it is. They invented a oral sex device it's for women. All these devices are for vaginas, for the most part. And this one, it has a rotating circle of tongues on it, so it replicates oral sex on your vulva and the clitoris.
I like that they're shaped like tongues. I thought that was like a really funny feature, because most oral sex toys don't actually replicate the look of any sort of. It's like a suction-y thing. So I like that this one actually had tongues, and it was like a wheel of tongues that just go around and around.
And I'm pretty sure it also lubricates itself as it's spinning.
Oh, interesting.
So it's like, yeah. And he's made $400,000 off of it so far.
Yeah, I looked him up, Liam, and he used all of his royalties to move to Canada from Dublin and take on a comedy career.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I really went deep on this one. I can't wait to tell you what I found out when you're done.
Yeah, I did not go deep. I just read about the devices and was a little upset that they were all like clitoris and vulva stimulators and things like that. And there were no like fleshlight. There was a fleshlight, but there was no like male specific sex toys, which I guess maybe guys aren't. Do you guys like not invest in sex toys as much as females do, just because like it's so much easier for us to climax?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I found a list of previous year losers, and there were a couple of really good ones that I found. One was, it's shaped like an octopus, and it's supposed to stimulate your testicles. So, like, imagine, like an octopus, how it has, like, all the tentacles?
Yeah.
Like, you put it on one testicle at a time, and, like, the little tentacles, like, stimulate your testicles.
That sounds good.
Yeah, no, I thought that was, like, interesting. The only thing I didn't like, I don't think the visual of, like, an octopus on your balls is, like, necessarily, like, sexual. But it was interesting.
There's a whole entire genre of hentai porn all about tentacles.
Plus, there's that painting of, like, the octopus eating the vagina, right? Like, it's like a famous painting. My husband would know because he likes art. So anyway, there is, like, octopus in sex in history. I just don't think the idea of, like, an octopus eating your balls is, like, necessarily super sexual.
Yeah.
The other one that I thought you might find interesting is, it was a butt plug, but the end of it was a bottle opener. So it was like a multi-purpose tool.
I mean, I don't know if I'd really want someone opening a bottle with my butt plug.
No, the movement, like, well, you mean while it's being used or outside of being used?
Either way, because when it's being used, I feel like the movement would just like, oh. And if it's not being used, do you really want your hand on my butt plug to open a bottle?
Yeah, it's a little close to the mouth because you're going to put your mouth on the bottle.
Yeah.
But these are the losers. So these were the ones that, like, didn't even come close. These are not the runners up. These are, like, the most bizarre submissions from the past.
Speaking of butt plugs, have you ever seen the butt? Do you know what like puppy play is in the gay culture?
No, please explain.
So puppy play is a fetish where I think it's more of a gay thing. It might be a straight thing too, but I'm pretty sure it's more of a gay thing. And it's like one of those dominant submissive relationships, and one partner is the puppy or the dog. And they often wear like leather harnesses, probably like the leather daddy culture. Leather harnesses. They have like leather face things that make them look like a dog with like floppy ears. And they take them for walks. They get their bellies rubbed. They play fetch. All these really like things. Like it's like submissive, but like a really cute kind of submissive. And one of the things that they often have is a butt plug that has a tail on the end. So like if you're in your jock strap, you put your butt plug in and it makes you look like you have a tail. And when you shake your butt, you know, you can wag your tail.
Wow. You can buy that at stores?
You can buy it online.
Interesting.
I don't go to sex toys too much anymore because you can just get everything online.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll go into Spencer's Gifts because I like to know what the teenagers are looking at. And you know that they all go to the mall and look at Spencer's. So I'll like take a peek when I'm at the outlets, but that's usually it.
I'm pretty sure it's the exact same things that were at Spencer's when we were kids. Like night before Christmas.
Like, have you heard of deep throat spray?
Yes, that like numbs your throat so you can deep throat.
Yeah, there's some weird stuff. I just like to keep up to date because, you know, like you get to tell like, hey, if you don't want to put that penis that far in your mouth, you don't have to. You don't have to feel like societal pressure or whatever. One thing that I found interesting was that the winner that you talked about, the squeal, it's called, which is like huge because it's a wheel and it makes you orgasm. So, which in theory might have a squeal. Is that it's the best-selling oral sex toy on the market right now, and oral sex toys are like super popular because of the it one, the suction-y one that's like the sex toy of the moment. You know this?
The one that like suction, like that messes with your clitoris.
Yeah. So I'm shocked that this beats those because those are like the cool sex toys right now for clitorises.
Yeah. And one of the prototypes for this year's was another clitoral stimulator, where like it suction cups onto your clitoris and vibrates so that you can still have penetrative sex, while your clitoris is being like tingled, which I thought was very interesting.
That is interesting. Although it seems logistically like a challenge, but the cool thing about it is that you don't have to actually have any engineering knowledge to enter this contest, right? Like if Liam from PPC WNY has an idea, he can just doodle it on a piece of paper and submit it, and they do all like the hard stuff, which I think is kind of cool, because it like lets lay people like you or I who might just have like an idea submit it and maybe become ballers because of it.
Yeah, I really like it.
What else? Oh, there was also one that lost that was shaped like a lava lamp, which I thought was funny.
Like a dildo shaped like a lava lamp?
Yeah, and it looked like a lava lamp. So it was like, oh, hey, have you ever thought about putting a lava lamp in your vagina? Well, if so,
Here you go.
Here's one that fits.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like it. I do wonder how capitalism works in this case and like whether people who have like, if you have a brilliant idea, whether you get like kind of ripped off by the company. But I like to think that maybe they're like good business and maybe they pay people appropriately. What do you think?
I mean, I hope they do, but I never trust capitalism too much.
Yeah, I could see a situation where like, oh, submit your idea and you get royalties for like X amount of years and then you lose them or like you give up your rights or something like that.
Yeah. Or yeah, like to say a cap or something.
Yeah. But maybe I'm wrong. They're great.
Yeah, maybe it's like a nice full partnership, 50-50 or something like that. Did you see that was a fantasy dildo of Chewbacca?
Yeah. I don't like to judge people, but I thought that was interesting.
So, I mean, what do you think a fantasy Chewbacca dildo looks like? Do you think it's like furry? Is that like a thing that women like a furry penis?
So I've never seen Star Wars. I think Chewbacca is like the green guy who has like fur, right? Let me look this up.
Chewbacca is a like bear-looking thing, and he goes.
Oh, maybe it has like fringe around it, right? It has like fringe fur.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't. That's what he looked like. Okay, yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I've never thought about what his penis looks like, but and you can't judge based on what somebody looks like. But he looks like pretty large, right?
Oh yeah, he's huge. He's like supposed to be like 7 something, 8 something. So I'm guessing his penis is probably pretty large. But do they like? Is it like a furry penis, or is it based off like like? Because he looks like a bear, right? So, or is it is it based off like a bear or dog penis kind of thing, where it's like a thing that like comes out?
You're asking the deep questions.
Yeah. Well, so when I read it, and they talked about fantasy dildos, I was actually at a wedding one time and met a guy from I think Portland who works in the fantasy dildo company, and his job was to design fantasy dildos. So he would design dildos that look like what you would think like a dragon penis might look like, or a mermaid penis. Did you ever see the ones where like the egg gets put inside of the body and then you like shoot the egg out?
No.
So they have these like alien dildos that have like eggs inside of them, and as you're having sex with it, you can like squeeze it and the egg goes inside of you, so you're being like impregnated by a alien, and then you can push it out.
I'm looking at the. Oh wow! And it includes gelatin eggs.
Yeah. And like you just like I mean my dog just got home from his walk, so he's gonna be all about me.
Oh, Allie.
So hey buddy. Yeah, they have like gelatin eggs. They're like lubricated, so they easily go in and out very well.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't realize that, but now I have it Googled on my computer, and I can't help but look at the pictures.
You're gonna get like a weird wish thing for it.
I am truly gonna get a weird wish thing for it. Anyway, good article this week, Liam. My article was also from Cosmo, which doesn't usually happen. We don't usually pick from the same site.
Yeah, it's weird.
But mine was called "I Have a Small Penis. 3 men reveal what it's like to have a tiny penis." And I thought it was interesting. So basically, it goes through and it asks all 3 of the men questions, and they all answer it. So it's like their perspective on all 3. And each of them technically qualifies having a small penis. According to this article, the average penis size is like a little over 5 inches when erect, and it's like a little over 3.5 inches when it's flaccid. And it really just goes through like the psychology of the teenage boys when they were young, and like how they're processing it now, and like whether they wish things were different. And what I really thought was interesting is like they all progressed through it so differently. Like one said, you know, it bothered me a lot when I was a kid, but I've had like a pretty decent amount of sex and my sex life is healthy. The other one, you know, still had some real self-esteem issues. And then the third one I thought was interesting, used it and became interested in like a humiliation fetish because of their small penis. Didn't you think that was interesting?
Yeah, I thought that was so I'm not one to like ick someone's ish, but I was kind of like did he like is he dealing with it in an effective manner? Or is this kind of like sexual kink he has now, like an unhealthy like growth or whatever from like him not dealing with him having a small penis?
Yeah, that's a good question. That would be a good question for somebody who like does this professionally, right? Like,
Yeah.
Is this a healthy way of dealing with it, or is it an unhealthy way of dealing with it? But it seems like he's sexually satisfied now, which is really good.
Yeah.
And it seems like if he hadn't found this, he would have like really struggled with sexual satisfaction, which so I'm glad he found something.
Definitely, me too.
One of the other things that they talked about was like how they realized that they had small penises as teenagers, and they were like really self-conscious. And you know, when I teach a lot about like not judging labias, not judging bodies, and not judging female bodies, but it made me much more aware of like not teaching penis owners not to judge other penis owners.
Yeah. And I mean, so yeah, being like a young boy is actually really weird because I don't like. I remember thinking like, oh, is my penis too small, or are people gonna make fun of the way my penis looks? Like, especially when I was like really young, like, 12, 13 or whatever, like right when puberty starts. But I don't actually remember anyone seeing someone's penis and then making fun of it. Like I think it was more like a me thinking about it thing than other people thinking about it thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Like, or you thinking that if somebody did see it, they would judge it, but like never having experienced it. Yeah. I do think it's interesting, like they would avoid locker rooms. It seems like a lot of them like really like I think about that a lot. Like, I grew up and I never went to the dentist, so I have really bad teeth. And like as a kid, I was always so self-conscious about it. And it was only until like I became an adult that I like stopped worrying about it. But like I imagine I can relate to that, right? Like, because I was like, oh my God, I smile with my mouth closed, that kind of thing, because I didn't want people to see my teeth. Yeah. And so it's like really stressful.
Definitely.
One thing I thought was funny was like the computers impact on their perspective of penises. Like one guy was like, I didn't realize until I got a computer what was normal and what wasn't.
The one guy was like, well, I noticed I had a small penis when I watched porn. But if you watch porn, like everybody has a small penis for the most part.
Yes. Truly, I think very few people compared to most porn penises.
Yeah.
Here's a question. Do you think that these three people got different levels of like sex education and that might have impacted their confidence in their penis as adults?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
I bet you, I have an instinct that like maybe if we do a better job of like normalizing bodies, maybe they'll react closer to man A, who's like seems totally okay with it.
But man A was also the one who reported having the largest of the small penises.
Good point.
So did he deal with it better because he's closer to normal? Because the one with the smallest penis is the one who started the submission Facebook group where he would be humiliated by attractive women about how small his penis was.
Yeah, that actually is a really good point. Like, he's the closest to the normal, and so maybe he's processing it better because of that.
Yeah. I did think it was interesting that the one guy, the man B, the guy who had like the middle-sized small penis, he talked about how like he warns his sexual partners now. And I always talk about like having conversations with your partner for like consensual purposes and safer sex purposes, but I can't imagine having like that kind of conversation with someone. Like, hey, by the way, I'm a little underwhelming.
Well, so for anybody watching and who's not going to read the article, he didn't discuss it once with the partner, which this is like a messed up situation. And then it broke up, and then he found out she was like saying all over the internet about how small his penis was. And like, can you imagine like what kind of decent human being puts it out there? But I mean, at least you're communicating, right? Like if you had a third testicle, would you tell your partner before you engaged in sex with them?
I don't know. I mean, really? You probably should. What?
You would just let them be surprised?
I mean, I have no idea. Like, you probably should talk to them about it, but I don't think you're coercing them into sex if you don't.
No, I just think about, so when I was in college, I had a friend who their partner didn't tell them they had a penis piercing until they were like inches away from it, and how like it completely threw them off, and like they just could, like they were not expecting it, and they were just like, I didn't know what to do. Like I just did not mentally prepare for this, even though a penis piercing doesn't really change a whole lot. So I just think I understand, like this person was freaking out. They were like, I just couldn't go through it. I had to stop. And so I think it's probably best that if you have any sort of from the standard expectation of your genitals, just let people know.
So 2 questions with that. Well, 1 statement and 1 question. With the penis piercing, everybody I've had sex with who's had a penis piercing has warned me ahead of time that they had their penis pierced. So that I do definitely understand. But I think penis piercings change the way sex feels a ton, and I was not a huge fan of it. But on the question is, with this, if you're different than normal, should you tell someone in America that you're not circumcised?
I feel like you should tell, I mean, you should be communicating right beforehand, or I should is a bad word, but I would like to be told, like, hey, just so you know, I have foreskin, or just so you know, I have a third testicle, or just so you know, my penis is below what you might have experienced in the past, or larger than what you might have experienced in the past. I don't know. But you're right, it's not consensual if you don't do it. It's just like, you're just setting yourself up for maybe some surprises.
Yeah, definitely.
I was a little upset that they only included people who engaged in penis-vagina relationships.
Yeah,
yeah, it was just, and they only talked about it from the perspective, like, so I think all of the people suggested that they engage with sex with vagina owners, but they didn't even really vary outside of like penis and vagina sex and oral sex. Like, I just thought it was interesting and not inclusive.
One thing I found not interesting about this article, but just about like the whole, going back to the whole like penis, like how we talk about like how women should be proud of their vaginas and people being proud of penises. Like, I feel like one of the main things that we don't talk about too much is like how much we body shame small penises.
Right. Yeah. And like, progressive people still, like, how many people do you know who like will insult an elected official based on their penis size?
Yeah.
And it's like, you're a progressive, like, why are we, and like, you can judge people based on so many things. Like, why is it based on like penises?
Yeah, like the whole like, oh, he's got like small dick energy. Like, that's not, we should not be using that kind of language anymore if we're gonna be like actually against body shaming in all its forms.
Or have you read about Lindsey Graham at all?
I mean, I have read things about Lindsey Graham, but I don't know if I know what you're talking. Nothing about his dick.
So I guess so this is like a long story. You read that people who say they engage in sex work with him have started speaking out. Have you heard this?
No.
Oh yeah, it's a whole nother thing to unpack because it's like outing people and shaming sex workers and I don't know what's true and what's not true. But one of the things that's going around, allegedly he engages with male sex workers. Okay. And one of the things that's going around is apparently he has like a ton of moles on his testicles. And so people are like making fun of him for it. And like, I'm not going to vocalize any opinions on Lindsey Graham, but like, maybe if you have a problem with Lindsey Graham, don't make fun of his testicles. Maybe like do it in a way that is like not body shaming to other people. Because what if you have a lot of moles on your testicles?
Yeah, I mean, that could be like HPV, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but it could be HPV or maybe it's like genital warts. I don't know. But anyway, you should Google that because there's a whole bunch to unpack there, right? Like he's being outed, and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like maybe talk about how if he is engaging in sex with A, sex workers, B, male sex workers, discuss some of his policy points that have been anti-sex workers and anti-LGBTQ folk.
Right, like maybe leave his testicles out of it.
Yeah.
Or like they talked about like Harvey Weinstein and apparently he has like an interesting penis and it's like, can we just like focus on the facts of Harvey Weinstein and like maybe leave his penis out of it? Because there's many atrocious things we can talk about with Harvey Weinstein that do not involve his interesting penis.
Yeah, or even Trump, right? Like the huge thing out of like Stormy Daniels' book was like that his penis looks like a mushroom from the Mario games. And it's like, okay, A, I didn't need to know that. B, like, again, body shaming.
Yeah, I just had to think about what that mushroom looks like. Interesting. Yeah, right. Let's talk about things that are not making other people feel like crap about their bodies.
Definitely.
This article, it also kind of talked about it, but it didn't really like so if you're engaging in penis and vagina sex with a person who has a vagina, Most people don't experience orgasm from penetration alone. And I feel like maybe Cosmo could have done a better job of like highlighting that like your penis size generally doesn't matter. Like if you have an average size penis, there is a high likelihood that you have never given a female an orgasm. And so like maybe these people with the smaller penises spend more time focused on pleasure and making up for what they perceive as their shortcoming.
Yeah. I mean, there's like a whole like trope about that, right? Where like ugly people are better at sex because they want to satisfy you more or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I just generally think that not enough penis owners care about pleasure. And so like some of these guys talked about that. And so I'm like, okay, you have a 4-inch penis, but you're probably making your partner's orgasm more than somebody with a 7-inch penis, to be honest.
Yeah. Because you're like, yeah, you're trying harder for it and you're more conscious about it.
Plus, most people don't experience orgasm from penetration alone anyway. And like, you get this and I get it all the time. Like, ma'am, do you have any magnums? I have a really big penis. And it's like, nobody cares about your penis size. I'm not impressed by it. Tell me about how you're going to provide pleasure, because that's more important than like your need for gold wrappers because you got a thick penis.
Yeah. And like you hitting her stomach is not going to help you make her orgasm.
No, or like beating up them walls or whatever teenagers say. It's just like, that doesn't sound necessarily focused on your partner's pleasure unless they like want to have their walls beat up.
Yeah. And also, I don't want to put this all on young men. Young women also, they have a hard time because of culture, because of stigma and things like that, expressing to their sexual partners what they want that makes them feel pleasurable, right? Like a lot of young women are just willing to accept bad sex because that's what they're taught they should do. And I think they should need to have that conversation. Hey, you know, I love it when you like hit it like this. I love it when you touch me there. Like, be noisy and tell your partner what you like, especially while it's happening. Whenever I talk about consent, I'm always like, be talkative, like be noisy. Tell your partner what you want. Oh no, we lost Lynne.
I'm here. Can you see me?
Yep, I saw you again.
I got a phone call. I've never gotten a phone call during the Zoom, and I guess that's what happens.
Yeah, just the letter L.
Right, like consent is more than just like yes and no. It's like, I like this. I don't like this. This is what I really want. I also thought it was interesting to think about, like, penises are so different. Obviously, I don't own a penis. I mean, I guess it's not obvious, but I've said it before. But, like, that penises can be so different from flaccid to erect. So, like, you can have, like what the guy with the biggest penis, I think, said his penis was barely there when it was flaccid. Yeah. And, like, so it's such a variation. Like, you can have a really small flaccid penis, but it grows or whatever. I think that's, like, really interesting.
So I've heard of that before. My a friend of mine's dad, their mom described his penis flaccid as like an innie, but hard. It was much larger, and I was like, wow, like I didn't know penises could change so much.
Like the phrase, "They're a grower, not a shower."
Yeah, but like, I also wonder, like, what's the average growth? Like, is there an average like growth span?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I guess if the average flaccid is 3.5 and the average hard is 5 and whatever, I guess that would be the average growth, but math's not my thing.
Yeah, me neither.
I mean, I guess the moral of the story is, and then one of the things they talked about was like how if you have a small penis, there are positions that make it more pleasurable if you're gonna engage in P&B sex, which is penis and vagina sex, like doggy style or legs up or whatever, to create a more feeling of tightness and less space, which I thought was really interesting.
And tying into, you're getting a lot of phone calls today.
Sorry, I'm only on my phone because my Wi-Fi is so bad, but I'm back.
It's all right. So tying the two articles together, one of the future sex toys that was talked about in my article was a fleshlight that's also a dildo. So if you guys don't know what a fleshlight is, it's like this masturbation tool for men that looks either like a vagina or an anus, and you put your penis into it and you can jerk off using it, and it feels much more stimulating. So this idea is to have one of those, but also have it be a penis shape on the other side. So if you have a small penis, you can enlarge your penis with this thing so that your partner can get pleasure out of it and you can get pleasure out of it at the same time. And I was like, oh, that's really nice.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah.
I guess you could also use, like, if you have a small penis and you're really not feeling comfortable, you could use like a strap on too, right? Or like some sort of or you could use a vibrator. Like, there are so many things you could do.
Oh yeah, yeah. There's plenty of ways you can.
Or this doesn't really matter as much as you think it does, because there's like 1,000 things you can do with it, including design your own sex toy.
Mm-hmm.
And it all comes full circle.
And it all comes full circle. Or, create a whole entire Facebook page about how you like to be made fun of for your small penis.
I think that's interesting. I mean, I agree. I've not heard a lot about humiliation. I mean, I've heard some, but like it's not commonly talked about. But like, I'm glad that person is experiencing sexual pleasure.
Me too. And like, I'm not against humiliation kinks. It was just like, because his humiliation kink had to do with this like trauma from childhood, that I'm like, did you deal with is that dealing with trauma in an appropriate way? Which maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not a psychologist.
Right. So I guess the moral of the story is like, don't judge people for what their bodies look like.
Don't judge people for their kinks.
And feel free to explore other options if there are things that you feel less confident about. There's many other things that can make you have positive sexual experiences.
Yeah, sex toys are real. Use them. Have fun.
Plus now the internet exists, so you can like get sex toys online, like you said. Like, there's really no barrier anymore. I guess unless you don't have like a credit card, that would be a barrier, or like a private address. But I mean, there's no barrier to getting. There's very few barriers to getting sex toys nowadays.
Yeah. I mean, like, yeah, they're online. You can get them from sex shops all over the place.
You can even get them at I mean, they're not real. No, that's not right. They're not like
high quality
form of sex toys, but like if you go to Rite Aid, they have like some minor sex enhancement things like cock rings that vibrate, and like
really?
I think they actually do have like small vibrators. I'm not really sure. You don't look at the sex at Rite Aid?
I haven't been to a Rite Aid in a while. Walgreens is closest to me, and I don't usually look at their sex aisle. I should.
Oh, I always do. I take a little stroll. I see what's up. And then if you're really embarrassed, just go to Spencer's and say like, hey, I'm buying a toy for my friend's birthday. And it's like, the friend is you. But don't be embarrassed. I mean, how many millions of people do you think buy sex toys, Liam?
Tons.
I'm trying to look it up. Let you go.
So, although I want to say don't be embarrassed, at the same time, I would probably have weird feelings if I went to a sex shop to buy a sex toy. Last time I bought lube at like a Walgreens, I had tons of weird feelings.
Really?
Yeah. So, I want people to be confident in themselves, but I myself am not always confident in myself. So I feel the struggle for anybody who is uncomfortable.
Interesting. So I just looked it up. Of people who buy sex toys, 78% said what they bought was a vibrator. 64% said what they bought was lubricant. 27% said what they bought was handcuffs, which is interesting. 10% were love eggs. What is a love egg, Liam?
I think a love egg is like a vibrating egg-shaped thing for your vulva stimulation.
I did not think that was what it was called. Interesting.
Yeah.
So the sex toy market is expected to grow from $28 billion a year in America to $52 billion in the next 5 years.
Wow.
Get in. You could get those royalties if you design the right sex toy, which is not an octopus that sucks on your balls.
Or maybe it is.
Maybe this website got it wrong and you need to resubmit it and try it again.
Yeah, maybe like, what we should do for our next web series? Shark Tank sex toys. Just
No, somebody who sells sex toys should try to get on Shark Tank and see what happens. Because I would pay to see like Mark Cuban talk about like the logistical strengths of sex toys.
Yeah, oh my god, because they just have like a whole episode about Shark Tank toys. I'm gonna talk to their producers and be like, hey, great idea.
Right. Hey, the guy who created FUBU, Damon John, I have an idea for you for your next episode. I mean, he seems like the coolest and the most like interesting and the most open to that kind of thing. Like, I don't think the woman who does QVC is going to sell sex toys anytime soon.
I think QVC is missing out on the sex toy industry.
I think everybody is. This is a great idea.
Yeah, like imagine.
Go.
Well, imagine like, you know, most people are on QVC are buying stuff at like 4 a.m. What do you want at 4 a.m. besides a sex toy?
Yeah. I mean, you're right. It probably is the hot time to buy a sex toy. Okay, well, this was great.
Yeah, this was a lot longer than our usual episodes. Sorry, y'all, but I hope you still enjoyed all of our conversations.
I think it's important to create like space for people to like have stupid, brainless time. And not that this is stupid or brainless, but like there's so much going on in the universe. So like this is like a bubble where like you can just like take a break. Because that's important, right? Everybody needs like a little oasis in the universe.
Yeah, definitely.
Like I read Harry Potter, although please, I'm very upset. What do? You look at Pinterest for camping ideas?
Yeah.
Maybe people will watch our web series as their little oasis.
Yeah, maybe the 16 views we get are people just trying to escape the world for 40 minutes.
Smash that subscribe button, everybody.
Yeah, smash that subscribe button. Like, leave us a comment about your fantasy sex toy and how you feel about small penises.
Yeah, and whether you were ever told, like, whether penises are good or bad. Like, what you were taught about penis size as a teenager.
Yeah, I like that. All right, cool, y'all. We'll see you next week. Have a good one, everybody. Have a safe.
See ya.